Hello and welcome to the Harris Federation Scheme of Work on Times of Change. This is a creative writing unit where you will produce your own creative writing when you've finished all of the lessons. This can be an imagined piece or it can be a personal experience of your own. So have your pen and paper ready and be creative. Remember, this is a video format, so you can pause at any time whenever you need to do your work or if you need to go back and recap any ideas. Enjoy your lesson.
Today's time of change that we will be looking at is when Hitler was elected in Germany just before World War II. We will be looking at an extract from a fiction novel called When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit by Judith Kerr. This story is about a Jewish brother and sister, Max and Anna, living in Germany just before Hitler is elected as leader of the country. One day they wake up and their dad has gone. He has run away to avoid the Nazis. Anna and Max and their family make plans to join him, but they must keep it a secret. What follows is a story of one family's struggle and attempts to stay together, while their freedom and everything they know is under threat. Hopefully, you have been able to print out a copy of the extract from When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit, or you can have it in front of you on the screen. I will read through it with you now. The words highlighted in red we will go through on the next slide as key vocabulary for today's lesson. Please follow along while I read. After that, everything seemed to go very quickly, like a film that has been speeded up. Heimpy was busy sorting and packing all day long. Mama was nearly always out or on the telephone, arranging for the lease of the house or for the storage of furniture after they had gone. Every day when the children came home from school, the house looked more bare. One day, Uncle Julius called while they were helping Mama to pack some books. He looked at the empty shelves and smiled. "You'll be putting them all back again, you know." That night, the children were woken up by the sound of fire engines. Not just one or two, but about a dozen were clanging their bells and racing along the main road at the end of their street. When they looked out of the window, the sky above the centre of Berlin was brilliant orange. Next morning, everyone was talking about the fire which had destroyed the Reichstag, where the German parliaments met. The Nazis said that the fire had been started by revolutionaries and that the Nazis were the only people who could put a stop to that sort of thing, so everyone must vote for them at the elections. But Mama heard that the Nazis had started the fire themselves. When Uncle Julius called that afternoon, for the first time he did not say anything to Mama about her being back in Berlin in a few weeks' time. The last days for Anna and Max at school were very strange. As they still were not allowed to tell anyone that they were leaving, they kept forgetting about it themselves during school hours. Anna was delighted when she was given a part in the school play, and only remembered afterwards that she would never actually appear in it. Max accepted an invitation to a birthday party which he would never be able to attend. Then they would go home to the ever emptier rooms, the wooden crates and the suitcases, the endless sorting of possessions. Deciding which toys to take was the hardest part. They naturally wanted to take the games compendium, but it was too big. In the end, there was only room for some books and one of Anna's stuffed toys. Should she choose Pink Rabbit, which has been her companion ever since she could remember, or a newly acquired woolly dog? It seemed a pity to leave the dog when she had hardly had time to play with it, and Heimpy packed it for her. Max took his football. They could always have more things sent to them in Switzerland, said Mama, if it looked as though they were going to stay there a very long time. When school was over on Friday, Anna went up to her teacher and said quietly, "I shan't be coming to school tomorrow. We're going to Switzerland." Fräulein Schmidt did not look nearly as surprised as Anna expected, but only nodded and said, Yes, I wish you luck." Elspeth was not very interested either. She just said she wished she herself were going to Switzerland, but that this was not likely to happen, because her father worked in the post office. Gunther was the hardest person to leave. Max brought him back to lunch after that had walked back from school together from the last time, though there were only sandwiches because Heimpy had not had time to cook. Afterwards they played hide and seek rather half-heartedly among the packing cases. It was not much fun because Max and Gunther were so gloomy, and Anna had a struggle to keep down her own excitement. She was fond of Gunther and sorry to leave him, but all she could think was, this time tomorrow we'll be on the train, this time on Sunday we'll be in Switzerland, this time on Monday. At last Gunther went home. Heimpy had sorted a lot of clothes for his mum in the course of her packing, and Max went with him to help him carry them. When he came back he seemed more cheerful. He had dreaded saying goodbye to Gunther more than anything. Now at least it was over. When writing a story, you usually write in either first person or third person. Take a look at these examples and see if you can write down which one do you think is which. I am feeling hungry, so I think I'll go to the shops and buy myself a snack. Lucy was hungry, so she thought she would go to the shop and buy herself a snack. Pause the lesson now and see if you can work out which one is first person or third person. Okay, well done. Hopefully you worked out that the red, where it's written I am feeling hungry, is a first person narrative, whereas the blue, which talks about a character called Lucy and she, is written in third person narrative. Take a look at this small little chunk of When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit from the extract we read earlier. What person is the extract written in? Look at the highlighted parts to help you. Pause the video now and write down what person you think this narrative is written in. Well done! It is the third person narrator. So the narrator of the story is the author, not one of the characters. What do you think the different effects are of writing in a first person or a third person narrative? If you were to write something from a first person perspective, what kind of things might be included in that? Take a moment now to pause the video and bullet point some ideas of what kind of things might be included in a first person narrative. Well done! Hopefully you got some of these ideas. Opinions, feelings, thoughts, personal ideas that you might not usually share, secrets, private thoughts about others, or maybe things that are worrying you. Before we start writing our own piece of writing, try and have a go at changing these third person narratives to first person and these first person narratives to third person. You can write out each bullet point on your piece of paper. Now that we have practiced and looked at different examples of first and third person narratives, it is your turn. Use this small part of the extract or a section of your choice and rewrite it from a first person perspective. You can choose whether you would like to be Anna or Max. Think about what you might need to include to show the reader how you are thinking and feeling. Let's have a look at a model response before we get started. This person has chosen to play the part of Anna, and so this bit is written from her perspective. I was so excited to be part of the school play, but then I remembered that I wasn't going to be here for it. It was hard lying to my friends and pretending that my whole life wasn't about to change, but Mama said it was really important that I kept it all a secret. There were small parts of the day where I forgot that Dad had gone, but then I went home and saw all the boxes and suddenly it all came flooding back into my confused and scrambled mind. When it came to choosing which toys I could take, I was useless. I wanted desperately to take all of them, but I wasn't allowed, and my heart worried about leaving any of them behind. Pink Rabbit, my closest and favourite friend. Now you'll see that this model answer is colour-coded. The yellow indicates the first person narrative, so using I and my so that the reader knows that it is the character's perspective that is being told. And the pink bits indicate the thoughts and feelings, which are often quite personal, to show how I, as Anna, am feeling at this time of crisis. What do you think are the main differences between telling a story in first person or telling a story in third person? Make some notes on the following. Which one do you think provides the reader with a better reading experience, and why do you think this? Do you think first or third person narrative depends on the type of writing or the subject matter? Why do you think this? And does changing the narrative voice change the feelings the reader has about a story and/or a character? Your understanding on the effects of narrative voice, have a go at this little experiment. Think about a time when you were feeling a particular emotion. It can be happy or sad, and it can be real or made up. Experiment with writing a small paragraph in a first-person narrative. That means using I and my, and the story is told from a character's perspective. Then try writing the same paragraph, but from a third-person narrative. That means using names and he, she, and the story is told from the writer's perspective. Depending on what you wrote about, which one do you think is better for your story, and why? We've reached the end of the lesson, and it's now time for some reflection. Now that you've written your 2 paragraphs, write down which narrative voice was better suited to your story and why. You can use these sentence starters to help you, but they are just a guide and you don't have to.